Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Poppin' was cracking this D. Boss reacts to this vid by this title, The Creepiest Hard Drives Ever Recovered. Oh, damn. This sounds very dark. I already feel like I know where this is going. But maybe it's other stuff, too. Maybe people had pictures of, like, body parts in their hard drive. You know, it was, like, meeting people and, like, cutting them up. I mean, that's really bad. But anyway, let's see what's on here. Let's watch.
Imagine you're strolling down the park, minding your own business,
See,
and on your path you find an SD card on the ground. However, no one's around, so it's likely you won't find the owner. So, out of curiosity, you take it back home, you plug it right into your PC. But things take a turn for the worse as you uncover all sorts
That's a new level of nosy. Like, how nosy do you have to be to see an SD card? Like, I wonder what's on here. Let me take it home and investigate. Go do something.
Legal material. This is what today's video is dedicated to. Murder evidence including images, videos, and even a how-to-kill document, to more mellow things like creepy, whatever this is. Join me as we take a look at the creepiest hard drives recovered. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I hope you earn your subscription by the end of this video. Let's get started with the topic. Murder evidence. Homicide at Midtown Marriott. Brian Stephen Smith, originally from South Africa and a naturalized American citizen, is infamously known for a double homicide of 2 Alaskan women in 2019, a case that has come to be dubbed the Alaska Memory Card Murders. Memory card murders because all it took was someone finding his SD card for the domino effect that led to his conviction to be set off. Smith had bizarrely documented his heinous acts and stored them on an SD card in a phone recklessly tucked away between the front passenger seat and the glove compartment of his truck. First, the overall summary is that he was found guilty of murder, SA, and misconduct involving a corpse and was sentenced to 226 years behind bars. Now, there's no extensive background on him, but what we do know, according to an immediate family member who wishes to remain anonymous due to her safety, is that his upbringing was pretty normal. You know, the type of childhood with a loving mom and dad, a nice home, a dog, and everything a child could possibly want. According to her, nothing could have explained how Smith ended up the way he did. Regardless, that's the way he ended up, and sadly, had 2 victims under his name, 30-year-old Kathleen Henry and 52-year-old Veronica Abuchuk. An interesting yet sad tidbit here is that apparently, Veronica's family had actually reported her missing in February of 2019, about 7 months since they had last seen her. It was eventually noted that the 2 women shared 2 distinct characteristics. Both came from small towns in western Alaska, and both were homeless. And pivoting to the SD card now, the way things went down was that one night, while driving down Anchorage, Alaska, Smith picked up a woman named Valerie Kassler to help him look for a, quote, young working girl. She knew the streets well enough to help and coincidentally was also homeless. By Valerie's admission, Smith seemed to be a nice guy. After all, she accepted his offer to ride around with him. The twist comes in though when at some point, Smith made a stop at a gas station to use an ATM and Valerie found herself alone in his truck. She accidentally dropped her phone and while reaching out for it, she picked up 2 phones, hers and one of Smith's. Simply out of a chilling instinct she had, she decided to pocket it. Then for days after that night drive that lasted until 5 a.m., she stayed in the woods completely terrified that if she left her tent, she'd come across Smith. Now, why was she terrified? Well, after she snooped through the phone and saw what was on it, she eventually decided to hand it over to the police. They then discovered 39 images and 12 videos with pretty damning information. The video footage showed a gruesome strangulation of a woman who had been beaten beyond recognition at what looked like a Marriott hotel. The perpetrator's face was never seen in any of the footage though. But in one of the videos, the woman is seen scratching the man's wrist in self-defense while being strangled and gasping for air. Some of the pictures also show the woman's body covered in a blanket and being snuck into a luggage cart. Now, among the videos, detectives singled out the specific one where the perpetrator could be heard urging the woman to die, saying, "You live, you die." Sadly, in my movies, everyone dies. You could tell this dude definitely had a fantasy of, I guess, being in a movie or being a villain, because let's keep going. The voice apparently stood out for one of the officers due to a distinct heavy accent. This is actually how investigators were able to link the voice in the video to a previous case they were handling involving someone with a very similar accent. The case involved none other than Brian Stephen Smith. It was sadly just a few days after this discovery that police were informed of human remains on a highway near downtown Marriott, which were identified to be Kathleen Henry's, the same woman in the footage. They immediately got awards for Smith's phone, and it was found to have been around the same area as the body at the suspected time of murder. He had also been a guest at the Town Place Suites by Marriott Hotel that day. He was arrested and questioned and later admitted to having killed another woman, that being Veronica Abuchuk. Now, remember Valerie? During an initial interrogation by the police after handing in the phone, she claimed to have found it in the street, but then later confessed to having stolen it from Smith's truck. That was in the second interview. Seemingly a small lie, but it almost had Smith walk free. Smith's defense had quickly tried to use that to try and prevent footage on the SD card from being used in the trial, but luckily, that got dismissed. The case actually got quite popular and even gave perspective to the plight of indigenous Alaskan people who often, quote, quietly disappear. And as I mentioned, Smith got 226 years, having been convicted on 14 counts. In the ruling, Superior Court Judge Kevin Saxby said that for Smith, there was no hope or restoration, only preventing him from killing again.
Damn.
3,000 illegal photos leading to 30 felony charges. A few months ago, in August of this year, a man was arrested on at least 30 felony charges of child exploitation. For context, this was within Delaware's jurisdiction, which means these charges are considered a level 5 felony. Interestingly, the man in question, 39-year-old Dustin N. Davis, also known as Torsten, was only caught after his lost cell phone was found. That was in June of this year when the lady reportedly found a blue Motorola G cell phone in a grassy area just near her home in the Muncie area. Now, it gets a little bit weird because I don't know anyone who has their wallpaper, their lock screen wallpaper, as their full name. I think that's another level of psychotic, but I mean, yeah, I guess in theory it's smart, you know? I still think it's kind of weird. Anyway, yes, he had his lock screen as his full legal name, Dustin Davis. So this prompted the lady to look him up on social media and contact him. She was able to successfully find the correct Dustin, and he responded confirming ownership, saying that he had lost the phone a couple days prior. But the lady persisted a bit just to be sure the phone really belonged to him. For some reason, she figured that the best way to do that was by accessing the internal SD card. Little did she know that she would end up making a discovery horrific enough to put this guy in prison. She reportedly found numerous images and videos depicting CP. That was enough to terminate her quest, and she immediately reported the whole thing to the police and turned over the phone to them. An investigation was set up, and going through the phone's contents, detectives found more than 3,000 images of CP and other inappropriate videos of very young, clearly underage girls. Disturbingly and also damningly, alongside these images were selfies of Davis himself. What was crazy about the amount of content discovered was that there was too much of it to be reviewed individually. Detectives opted for a different approach and decided to instead determine the period in which David had gathered and accessed the content. This was found to have been about 10 months, between September of 2023 and June of 2024. On the afternoon of the 8th of August, Davis was detained by the police for questioning, and he shockingly didn't deny any of it. He admitted to being the owner of the phone and indeed accessing CP on it. According to Davis, he claims to have only accessed CP out of, quote, boredom, and that he wasn't attracted to children in any way. Guys, by the way, I figured I should let you know, if you ever want to get out of any situation, just say that you did it out of boredom. Just use the Dustin approach. I mean, this is the perfect explanation. He also tried justifying what he did, saying that he only looked it up to see whether or not it was, quote, easily accessible. Another great excuse by this dude Dustin. None of that worked in his favor though, as he was immediately arrested and booked into the Delaware County Jail with a $250,000 bond. At the time of his arrest, an initial hearing date had not yet been set, but online court records show that Davis wasn't a first-time offender and had previously faced charges that included stalking, invasion of privacy, and domestic battery, among other disturbing offenses.
Horrible.
Found SD card leads to CP bust. It's not clear whether the SD card in this case was lost or discarded. Nonetheless, in May of 2014, it was discovered and led to the arrest of 24-year-old Timothy Brian Werhoff from Oakdale, California for felony CP charges. How the SD card was found was just pure coincidence. Apparently, a local resident in Oakdale was searching for recyclables at a dumpster and bumped into a micro SD card. He got curious, loaded it onto his phone, and took a peek only to discover it was full of CP. He immediately reported the incident to the Oakdale Police Department, who confirmed that indeed the SD card had CP, specifically more than 2,500 images, 150 videos, and some pictures of a man who was eventually identified to be Werhoff himself. It actually turned out that identifying him wasn't that difficult thanks to his mugshots from previous arrests and his characteristically distinct tattoos. Soon after, forensics worked out that the photos were from a home on the 70th block of Leslie Court, which was where he lived with his mother. On Thursday, the 22nd of May 2014, the Oakdale police issued a search warrant which they immediately executed despite Werhoff not being home. As evidence, they confiscated a computer and other electronic devices during their search. Then they had barely left the home when they received reports of a suspicious person wandering the grounds of Sierra Baptist Church, which was directly behind Werhoff's home. A lead that they pursued, and lucky for them, the person in question turned out to be Werhoff. They arrested him, and he agreed to accompany the officers to the station for further questioning, but before they even left, he willingly admitted to the ownership of the SD card. The sergeant conducting the questioning said that Werhoff also admitted to having downloaded numerous inappropriate CP images online and taken pictures of at least one of the underage girls that were found among the images. And as if that wasn't enough, he also admitted to uploading the girl's images onto the internet without her knowledge or consent. Not that it mattered whether he'd done it with or without her knowledge, but the police located the girl and contacted her parents. The girl confirmed that indeed the photos were taken without her knowledge. In the meantime, police continued with the investigations to determine whether or not any SA had occurred while still detaining Werhoff. By this time, he had been booked at Stanislaus County Jail on 3 felony charges, including the possession of obscene matter depicting minors under the age of 14, production of obscene matter depicting a child under 18, and distribution of the same on the internet. He was held with a $50,000 bond. His hearing was held on the 27th of October that same year, and he pleaded guilty to all the charges. He was scheduled to be sentenced in January the next year, 2015, and was facing up to 20 years in federal prison with a possible fine up to $250,000. The actual sentencing was set to be done, quote, at the discretion of the court, end quote. Serial Killer's How to Kill document. This one is very recent. It happened actually last year in June. It involves a man named Rex Hoyerman, a New York architect who had been accused of being a Gilgo Beach serial killer, a killer who was tied to the brutal murders of multiple women found along Long Island's South Shore. And just like the other cases we've covered, everything here was set in motion due to a hard drive. The drive, found in his basement, revealed what prosecutors called a blueprint for his crimes, outlining his meticulous plans, including methods to minimize forensic evidence, strategies for cleaning crime scenes, and chilling instructions on handling victims' bodies. Now, a little background on him. According to records of his Manhattan business, he was a registered architect with over 30 years of experience. Then, to his neighbors, he seemed like a simple family man with a wife and children. Clearly, there was more to him because earlier this year, that hard drive had the 60-year-old charged with multiple murders, including 20-year-old Jessica Taylor and 52-year-old Sandra Castilla, and these were murders that went back years. Jessica's remains, for example, had been discovered back in 2003, and she had been dismembered and her body parts discarded in multiple places. Sandra, on the other hand, had been reported missing in 1993 before her remains were eventually found in Southampton. Both women, like the other victims in this case, were believed to have been sex workers. Mind you, these were just additional charges on already existing ones related to the other previous murders, known as the Go-Go 4. The guy had killed 4 other women in the beach area, with their bodies being found in the fall of 2010, as well as sometime into 2011. The 4 were Melissa Bartholomew, Megan Waterman, Maureen Brainard Barnes, and Amber Castello. Further into the case, authorities also recovered an extensive digital archive from Howerman's home, including 27 computers, 58 hard drives, and numerous cameras, phones, and other electronic devices. Among these, investigators unearthed violent pornography and material eerily consistent with the crime scenes of the known victims, and interestingly, a copy of one of John Douglas's books on criminal psychology, and even notes referencing other books. Prosecutors also determined that Howerman had carefully timed his alleged crimes, ensuring that his wife and children were out of the state during each incident. This pattern was consistent across the cases. He'd also cleverly tried his best to erase the incriminating evidence from hard drives using forensic wiping software, but police still retrieved the deleted files, further strengthening the case against him. Now, despite the severity of the crimes and the mountain of evidence against him, as of the 21st of November of this year, Howerman had entered the not guilty plea and was being held without bail. Currently, he's awaiting his trial, set to be held next month. Alright, so now we're going to be heading over to the Reddit stories. The only and biggest problem with the Reddit stories is that some of them are just fake. You know, some of them are like, I found this crazy thing, and they describe it like.
Yeah, I'm gonna head out. You gotta take the stuff on Reddit with a grain of salt. Sometimes people just have wild imagination. Sometimes people got inspired by movies they saw. You know, so I don't really trust whatever they say on Reddit, to be honest. But yeah, these stories were horrible, heinous. Hopefully these people got hard time for what they did. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Let me know what other videos you want to watch, and I'll see y'all the next time. Bye!